Hidden inside that small jar are compounds most people never think to question. Additives and residues that, in certain amounts, have raised concerns for children, pregnant women, and older adults. Not every brand is the same, and not every product crosses a line, but some have faced scrutiny for what testing has quietly revealed. There is a small jar on the spice rack. You bought it without much thought. It looked like every other jar. Same size, same label, same quiet promise of flavor. Later, you opened it, shook it over heat, and the kitchen filled with something familiar, comforting, trusted. You have done this hundreds of times. What almost no one does is turn the jar around and really read it, not the front, but the back, the place where ingredients, processing aids, and sometimes unexpected additions are listed. The part that rarely matches the image on the label. 1. McCormick. McCormick ground spices have tested positive for elevated lead content in independent laboratory analyses conducted by consumer advocacy organizations, including Consumer Lab and Consumer Reports. In 2023, Consumer Reports published findings showing that several McCormick products, including their ground cinnamon, contained lead at levels that, consumed regularly, could contribute meaningfully to cumulative lead exposure, particularly in children. The FDA had set a guidance level for lead in certain food categories, but had not established enforceable limits for spices specifically. The absence of an enforceable limit does not mean the absence of the compound. It means the compound is present within a space that enforcement has not yet fully entered. McCormick responded that their products meet all current regulatory standards. That statement is accurate. The standards, at the time of publication, permitted what the tests found. McCormick & Company, headquartered in Hunt Valley, Maryland, is the largest spice company in the United States. Its red-capped bottles are in more American kitchens than any competitor. The brand is old enough to feel like infrastructure, present since 1889, woven into the background of every grocery store spice aisle in the country. 2. Trader Joe's spices. The same Consumer Reports investigation that examined McCormick also tested Trader Joe's ground cinnamon and found lead and cadmium levels among the highest recorded across all brands tested. Cadmium is a heavy metal that accumulates in the kidneys over time. The FDA classifies it as a hazardous substance. Its presence in spices is not a manufacturing failure. It enters through the soil in which the spice plants grow, absorbed during cultivation, concentrated during the drying and grinding process. A spice with high cadmium content may have been grown in soil that has absorbed industrial or agricultural runoff across decades. The spice carries what the soil carried. The jar does not mention the soil. 3. Great value. Great value spices were included in a separate analysis by the Clean Label Project, a nonprofit that tests food products for contaminants. The Clean Label Project's findings showed that several value-tier spice brands, including Great Value, contained detectable levels of heavy metals, including lead, arsenic, and cadmium. Arsenic occurs in two forms, organic and inorganic. The inorganic form is a known human carcinogen. Its presence in spice products at trace levels falls within the range that regulators describe as not presenting acute risk. The cumulative arithmetic of daily spice use over years is a calculation the label does not perform. Great Value is Walmart's private label food brand, and its spice line occupies the lowest price point in the mainstream market. A jar of Great Value ground cumin or garlic powder often costs less than $1. For households managing tight grocery budgets, the price is not incidental. It is the point.
4. Dollar Tree spices. Laboratory testing by investigative outlets has found that some Dollar Tree spice products contain filler materials, including ground plant matter not consistent with the labeled spice, alongside detectable heavy metal contamination. Adulteration in the spice industry is a documented, recurring problem. The FDA conducts inspections of spice import facilities and has issued import alerts on specific foreign suppliers found to be delivering adulterated or contaminated product. The volume of spices entering the U.S. market annually makes comprehensive testing impossible. A small percentage of products are examined. The rest move through the system on the basis of supplier documentation and historical compliance records. The jar in the Dollar Tree aisle arrived through that system. Dollar Tree spice products, sold under various generic labels in stores across the United States, represent the absolute floor of the commercial spice market. They are purchased by millions of households. They are shaken into food every night in kitchens where no one has any reason to suspect the contents of a small plastic jar bought for $1.25. 5. Badia spices. Badia was among the brands identified in heavy metal testing analyses as containing elevated lead levels in certain products. The company has also faced regulatory action from the FDA related to facility sanitation and labeling compliance on separate occasions. None of these actions resulted in the brand being removed from shelves. They resulted in warning letters, corrective action timelines, and continued operation. That is how the regulatory process functions. It is corrective, not preventive. The product is on the shelf while the correction is underway. Badia Spices, headquartered in Doral, Florida, is one of the largest Hispanic-owned spice companies in the United States and holds significant market share in communities where its familiar yellow packaging has been a pantry staple for decades. 6. Gel Spice Company. Gel Spice was subject to an FDA investigation that identified salmonella contamination in its facility. The FDA issued a warning letter in 2023 citing insanitary conditions, including evidence of pest activity and inadequate controls for pathogen prevention. Salmonella in spices is not rare. The CDC has linked multiple outbreak investigations over the past 15 years to contaminated spice products. Because spices are used in small quantities and rarely consumed raw in large amounts, the epidemiological signal can be difficult to trace. The outbreak investigation often concludes long after the product has moved through the supply chain. Gel Spice Company, based in Bayonne, New Jersey, is a bulk and private label spice supplier whose products reach consumers through store brand channels and food service operations. Most people who have consumed Gel Spice products have done so without knowing it. The company supplies spices that are repackaged under other labels. 7. Tones. The issue with tones is not a single contamination event. It is the intersection of bulk packaging, extended shelf life, and the way spices degrade over time. Many Tones products have best buy dates extending 2 to 4 years from purchase. Over that period, the volatile aromatic compounds that give spices their functional value diminish significantly. What remains is the physical matter, the powder, the color, and whatever contaminants were present at the time of processing, now concentrated in a product that has lost much of the beneficial complexity that justified its presence in the food. You are shaking a shadow of the original spice into your food. The label has not changed to reflect that. Tones, now part of the B&G portfolio and distributed primarily through warehouse and club stores, is a brand that many households encounter through bulk purchases. The large plastic containers of garlic powder, onion salt, and Italian seasoning that sit on a shelf for a year or longer before being finished. 8. Simply Organic. Simply Organic, owned by Frontier Co-op and based in Norway, Iowa, presents itself as the careful choice: organic, non-GMO, and ethically sourced. The green label signals trust. The price reinforces it.
But organic certification answers a narrow question: pesticide use. It does not address heavy metals like lead or cadmium, which enter through soil. Independent testing has found measurable levels across categories, sometimes similar to conventional brands. The label suggests safety in full. The certification only confirms part of it. The distinction remains quiet, sitting on the shelf.
9. Spice Island. Spice Islands, one of the older premium spice brands in the American market and now part of the B&G Foods portfolio, carries a heritage branding strategy that positions it above mass-market competitors. The bottles are more elegant. The price is higher. The implied promise is that the premium reflects something real about what is inside. Heavy metal testing has shown Spice Islands products performing inconsistently. Some varieties testing relatively well, others showing elevations in lead or cadmium comparable to mass-market brands sold at half the price. The premium, in those cases, purchased better packaging and a more refined label. It did not consistently purchase a cleaner product. Price in the spice category is an unreliable signal of contamination risk. The contamination originates in the soil where the crop was grown, and soil quality does not correlate with retail price point. Safe brands. 11. Burlap and Barrel. Now, the two that are worth your attention. Burlap and Barrel, founded in New York by Ethan Frisch and Ori Zohar, sources single-origin spices directly from small farms across Guatemala, Uganda, India, Tanzania, and elsewhere. The company publishes the origin of every product, not a region, not a country, but a specific farm or farming cooperative with information about the grower. Independent testing has placed Burlap and Barrel among the lowest contamination spice brands available to American consumers. The direct sourcing model means the company has visibility into soil quality, farming practices, and processing conditions that brands operating through commodity supply chains do not. The spices are more expensive. They are also demonstrably different in flavor complexity, in aromatic intensity, and in what testing suggests is inside the jar. Ethan Frisch and Ori Zohar built the company on the premise that the spice supply chain was broken and that transparency was the repair. The results, both in the jar and in the laboratory data, suggest they were right. 12. Diaspora Co. Diaspora Co., founded in 2017 by Sana Javeri Kadri in Oakland, California, operates on a similar model: single-origin sourcing, direct farmer relationships, radical supply chain transparency. Sana Javeri Kadri built the company explicitly in response to the colonial pricing structures that have historically undervalued South Asian spice farmers while overcharging Western consumers for commodity-grade product. Diaspora Co. spices have tested cleanly in independent analyses. The sourcing documentation is public. The farmer partnerships are named. The processing facilities are disclosed. The company's turmeric, sourced from Pragati Farm in Andhra Pradesh, India, has become a reference point in conversations about what traceable, clean spice sourcing can produce. The jar costs more than the jar on the other shelf. What the testing shows is that the jar also contains more of what the label says and less of what the label does not mention. But something is different now. You've seen a little more than you did before. If this made you pause, even for a second, that matters. Like the video if it made you think. Share it with someone who trusts their kitchen the same way you did. And next time you reach for that jar, just remember the question that didn't used to be there. Thanks for watching.